Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 384 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. Divine Knife Luo Wushuang. His going to the Great Void too. Qin Mu frowned slightly. Luo Wushuang had a deep hatred towards him. If he went to the Great Void too, Qin Mu would be in great danger. What kind of place is the Great Void? Qin Mu perfectly took out his arm from her embrace and asked. I have heard of that place since I came to the celestial heavens. It's very mysterious. Why do we need to explore that place? Isn't it because of Carefree Village? Yun Chuxiu replied, Celestial Venerable Qin established Carefree Village, and moved the founding Emperor Celestial Heavens there. Although the founding Emperor era was obliterated, the founding Emperor Celestial Heavens' main pillar still exists. Why would this attempt by the Celestial Heavens to suppress the Primordial Realm's rebellion not impact Fengdu at all? It's because they haven't found Carefree Village yet. Qin Mu's heart moved slightly. Yun Chuxiu continued, Founding Emperor was, after all, Celestial Venerable Qin. Although he betrayed the Heaven Alliance, he was still one of its 5 founding elders. As long as he's not dead, a lot of people won't be at ease since he refuses to submit himself. Those who went to suppress the rebellion in the Primordial Realm heard that he was giving orders from Carefree Village, telling Fengdu to avoid fighting and wait for a chance to launch an ambush. Fengdu is a minor objective, with the major problem for the Celestial Heavens being Carefree Village. She carefully examined Qin Mu's expression, but found nothing unusual about it. She vaguely commented, Celestial Venerable Mu seems very calm. Celestial Venerable Qin, Qin Yi, is your ancestor. Are you not curious about him at all? I toured the Celestial Heavens during the first year of the Dragon Han era with him. He was indecisive and not straightforward. In addition, he was rebellious. He poisoned Celestial Venerable Hao and dared to kill people at the Jade Pool in disobedience to Mistress Yuan Mu. I knew then that he was destined to be a traitor, and despised him and the way he did things. My body comes from his bloodline, but my soul is unrelated to founding Emperor's bloodline. Qin Mu righteously proclaimed, Today, he's a traitor while I'm Celestial Heaven's Celestial Venerable Mu. Naturally, I would cut clean my ties with him. If I see him in the Great Void, I'll spurn him harshly. Empress, have Celestial Venerable Hua and Celestial Venerable Shu found this traitor? Yun Chuxiu carefully observed his minute expressions, and found nothing wrong with them. It seemed that cutting ties with founding emperor was a true desire of Qin Mu's. She shook her head and said, There's news that claims that Carefree Village is in the Great Void. Hence, the Celestial Heavens explored that place recently in an attempt to find Carefree Village and remove this concern. When Celestial Venerable Hua and Celestial Venerable Shu reached the Great Void, they separated and found many weird places there. The Great Void is full of peculiarities. To go there, only a small party is allowed, because the larger the party, the more dangerous it is. The party that you will be leading there will contain 300 people. Qin Mu's heart moved slightly, and he asked, Have you been there, Empress? Yun Chuxiu's expression changed slightly, a clear indication of her recalling the past. She changed the topic, saying, Celestial Emperor's decree will arrive here soon. Wait for it and prepare to die in the Great Void. Qin Mu's eyes flashed as he smiled. Don't you want to go, Empress? Yun Chuxiu laughed. Why would I go to that sort of place? It's filled with danger. I won't go to such a terrifying place. Qin Mu curiously asked, So, Empress, what is it that caused you to find me in such a hurried manner? Your aim can't simply be to tell me this, right? Yun Chuxiu's expression wavered, and she suddenly sighed. I want to go, but I don't dare to go with my true form. Qin Mu wanted to inquire further when the Dragon Chelin reminded him, Cult Master, it's time to eat. Qin Mu walked forward and forged some spirit pills for the dragon Qilin. The dragon Qilin stared at his rice bowl and seriously looked at the spirit pills, before laughing heartily all of a sudden. Cult Master, I heard a very funny story from Qi Jiui. I can recite it for you. Qin Mu acknowledged him and asked, what interesting story did Qi Jiui tell you? The dragon Qilin said, once upon a time, there was a lustful pervert who died. The end. Isn't it funny? Ha 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 ha. Qin Mu stared at him, and the dragon Qilin stopped laughing and continued to consume the spirit pills seriously. Qin Mu rose and plainly said, well said. I, too, have a story. One of the spirit pills in the bowl is poisonous. The end. The dragon Qilin immediately stopped and stared at the pills in the bowl, cold sweat bursting from his forehead. Not long after, a god official came with a decree ordering Qin Mu to lead 300 gods and devils into the Great Void to rendezvous with Celestial Venerable Hua and Celestial Venerable Shu. Qin Mu accepted the decree and saw that Luo Wushuang was leading the 300 gods and devils behind the official. Beside him was a disciple of the spirit elite guards with a severed arm. The other gods and devils varied in cultivation levels, and were likely the disciples of celestial venerables. That god official, who was the one that cleaned up the Jade Sea prior, said, Celestial Venerable Mu, the boat is ready. Please prepare yourself, Celestial Venerable, and proceed quickly. Qin Mu looked at the sea and saw a boat. He asked, are the supplies ready? Where is the topographic map of the Great Void? That god official shook his head. One has no need for supplies in the Great Void. There is no topographic map of the place either. You will understand once you get there. Luo Wushuang and the others had already boarded the boat, and Qin Mu frowned. He said to Yang and the dragon Qilin, this journey is treacherous. Stay behind, there's no need to accompany me. After I leave, Yang, you will take Fatty Dragon to see South Deity Zhu Q. She will protect both of you. Yang hesitated before saying, Master, amongst these 300 gods and devils, at least 200 wish to kill you. If I follow you, I can protect you. There's no need for that. Qin Mu smiled and said, if Carefree Village really is in the Great Void, then my brother is there too. With him there, no one will dare to lay a finger on me. Yang thought about it before retrieving a lantern and saying, please carry this artifact with you. It was a gift from Celestial Venerable Yu for self-protection. Qin Mu accepted the lantern and boarded the boat, only to see Yun Chuxiu there. He was slightly stunned when he asked, didn't you say that you didn't want to go, Empress? Yun Chuxiu sighed, and was clearly worried and lacking vigor. She said, I really don't want to go, but I also want to find out the Great Void's real nature. The boat slowly floated and moved towards the north of the celestial heavens. Qin Mu probed her, is the Great Void really as terrifying as everyone says? If you have been there, why not tell us about the pitfalls there so that we can be prepared, Empress? Yun Chuxiu hesitated and said, I have been there. I led the celestial heavens divine warrior guards there, which numbered 100,000. 2 out of the 4 heavenly masters of the celestial heavens also went along on top of my proud students to explore the Great Void. Qin Mu's heart jumped. The divine warrior guards were one of the celestial heavens' 10 guards, along with the feathered forest guards. Those who were selected for it were the strongest gods and devils who had experienced hundreds of battles. He saw the warriors of the feathered forest guards on the ghost ship. Each one of them was a being that had at least reached the Jade Capital realm. The divine warrior guards that Celestial Empress led to explore the Great Void probably planned to occupy it on top of exploring it. The Great Void is a ruin in the universe. It's a halo zone. When one enters, one will discover that it's a unique place full of new things. Yun Chuxiu rested against his shoulder, recalled what happened, and whispered, then, weird things happened as soon as we entered the halo zone. All sorts of weird things. There were all kinds of imaginary creatures there. She frowned and said, we were struck by all sorts of peculiar events and suffered heavy casualties. Only 1 out of 10 people in the Divine Warrior Guards survived. Even I and the other 2 Heavenly Masters were heavily injured. It was only then that Heavenly Master Yu suddenly comprehended the secrets of the Great Void. What one imagines becomes reality. Qin Mu's heart shuddered. What one imagines becomes reality. The meaning of this Heavenly Master Yu was. His meaning was that what killed the soldiers of the Divine Warrior Guards were the terrors and fears we imagined in our hearts. They became reality in the Great Void. Yun Chuxiu continued, somebody imagined being killed by lightning, so terrifying lightning struck. Somebody imagined a devil with 1,000 heads and 10,000 hands killing him, so such a devil appeared. Somebody feared that the sky would collapse, so a planet fell from the sky. All sorts of terrors struck, which crushed the celestial heaven's strongest army. We had to leave before we found out the Great Void's true nature. Ultimately, it's only I who walked out of it alive, but heavily injured. The other 2 Heavenly Masters, however. She sighed and said, the 2 Heavenly Masters were extremely wise and intelligent beings and also great warriors endowed with the Emperor's throne. Unfortunately, neither of them survived. Qin Mu closed his eyes. Yun Chuxiu's tale was truly horrifying. Was the Great Void really such a terrifying place? What was the terror that heavily injured you, Empress? Qin Mu asked. Celestial Emperor, the real one. Yun Chuxiu's face was filled with horror as she said with a hoarse voice, I killed him, but I fear him the most. In the Great Void, he reappeared and charged towards us. I was scared. She shivered repeatedly in fear. Qin Mu suddenly asked, so how did the 2 Heavenly Masters and other lucky survivors die? If Heavenly Master Yu had already comprehended the Great Void's secret, and knew that what one imagines becomes reality, he would have certainly restrained people to not think, right? It should be easy for beings of their class, right? Why, then, did they all die in the Great Void while only you survived? Yun Chuxiu revealed a pure smile whose beauty touched people's hearts. She even lifted her chest. The shirt was tight at her collar, and the beauty within was close to being unleashed. She said, what are you trying to say, Celestial Venerable Mu? Qin Mu ignored her seduction and smiled. What I'm trying to say is that in that big terror, the surviving warriors of the Divine Warrior Guards had already lost their rationality and were panicking. Meanwhile, you didn't know others' thoughts, and the best way to survive was to kill the others so they could no longer think. What was imagined became reality, so as long as they were dead, they could no longer think. His gaze was focused on this young lady's delicate features as he slowly said, thus, you killed them. You killed everyone, including the 2 Heavenly Masters, because you couldn't trust them. It was by this method that you survived to leave the Great Void. Yun Chuxiu laughed, and her breasts jiggled as she said, we are of the same kind, Celestial Venerable Mu. You guessed the method I used to leave the Great Void immediately. You and I might be the real one true pairing. Qin Mu ignored her allures and plainly said, Empress, we aren't a pairing, and we will never be of the same kind. I would never abandon my companions, let alone kill them. I'm just used to the darkness, and was thus able to figure out your malicious nature. Yun Chuxiu coldly smiled. Celestial Venerable Mu, you are too idealistic. They weren't my companions, they were just my slaves and servants. Either they died, or I died, so of course, they were the ones who died. If you were in the same situation as me, your choice would be the same. You and I are of the same kind. Maybe not now, but for sure in the future. Qin Mu frowned. The boat exited the northern heavenly gate. They went above the celestial river, and beneath them were the celestial heavens barracks, Fomalhaut. There were countless gods, devils, and fleets that were stationed there as heavens orbited the Fomalhaut. These heavens supplied the Fomalhaut with rations and other supplies. Qin Mu looked at this barracks, whose divine light beamed into the skies for millions of miles. The celestial heavens was too powerful. Without even talking about the 10 guards of the celestial heavens, even Fomalhaut was enough to annihilate eternal peace thousands of times over. Ever since I revealed the secret of the Great Void, the celestial heavens began to come up with various techniques to prevent one from thinking. Amongst those, the most famous one is Buddhism's neither thought nor no thought. Yun Chushio said, neither thought nor no thought allows one's thoughts to exist in limbo and prevents the Great Void from turning it into reality. This was a technique created by Brahma. Have you learned it? Qin Mu shook his head. Yun Chushio revealed an enthralling smile, and saw a halo appear in the night sky. Luo Wushuang walked towards them and solemnly asked, so, what does Celestial Venerable fear the most? Qin Mu turned around and replied with a smile, I am Overlord Body Qin, I have no fears. What is your greatest fear, Divine Knife Luo? With my divine knife in my hands, I have nothing to fear, Luo Wushuang plainly replied. Yun Chushio was extremely curious as she asked, Divine Knife Luo, did you cultivate neither thought nor no thought? Luo Wushuang shook his head and said, as long as I'm loyal to my blade and Tao, I will have no fears. So why would I fear the Great Void? Yun Chushio praised him, Divine Knife Luo, you certainly have a steady Tao heart, fitting of being called the number 1 divine knife of the celestial heavens. She turned around and told Qin Mu, Divine Knife Luo is dead, like you. Qin Mu smiled. I've had great guts since I was small and have never felt afraid before. Yun Chushio coldly laughed. Both of you are youths that know no fear. You don't fully comprehend the terror of the Great Void. Luo Wushuang glanced into her eyes, before looking down and taunting, little maiden doesn't know that my Tao heart is sincere to the point where I have no fears. Yun Chushio was angry. The extremely daring Qin Mu had called her little maiden before, but he was a celestial venerable and thus had the right to do so. This fellow Luo Wushuang also dared to look down on her and call her a little maiden. However, she was a celestial empress and a celestial venerable, so she decided to be forgiving. Qin Mu's eyes flashed, and his gaze landed on Luo Wushuang. Luo Wushuang sensed his gaze, snorted coldly, and plainly said, I won't kill you now. Once we arrive at the Great Void, I'll kill you. If you're scared, beg the little maiden to teach you neither thought nor no thought. Qin Mu smiled and ignored him, as he turned to size up the other youths on the boat. These youths were of extraordinary origins, for they were disciples of celestial venerables and strong practitioners of the Emperor's throne of vigorous cultivation. He sized them all up and was secretly alarmed. Although there were a lot of young talents after Eternal Peace's reform, there were countless more young talents in the celestial heavens. Each one of them was extraordinary in their own right and very capable. The celestial heavens ruled over tens of thousands of worlds and heavens, so it wouldn't be difficult to pluck out outstanding disciples from these worlds. Qin Mu's eyes lit up as he noticed a lady. That lady's appearance was extremely similar to the younger sister of Celestial Empress. He asked Yun Chushio naturally, do you have a younger sister? Yun Chushio was perplexed and looked in the direction he was gazing at. Her eyebrows rose, and she coldly laughed. She saw the lady too, who bore some resemblance to Mistress Yuan Mu. It was just that she seemed young, and was a beautiful young lady like her. Yun Chushio approached that lady, and the cold smile on her face was replaced with a pure one as she stood by her side. That girl saw her and was uncontrollably shocked. Their conversation seemed to make them happy, both of them smiling throughout. Qin Mu curiously observed them. The girl's relationship with Yun Chuxiu piqued his interest. Mistress Yuan Mu died at the hands of Celestial Empress. She got rid of her and used her body to continue being Empress, before becoming Zhu Wuchen to trick and bring about the demise of Celestial Emperor. Later on, Celestial Venerable Ling assassinated her by stabbing a hairpin in the back of her head. However, her primordial spirit left her body and escaped, which gave her a new lease on life, as she became one of the 10 Celestial Venerables by sneakily joining the Heaven Alliance. Mistress Yuan Mu's body was locked in the crystal coffin, which was in the hands of Qin Mu. This body was seemingly not vanquished, as after Qin Mu received the coffin, Mistress Yuan Mu became reanimated and tried to hurt him. Wei Suifeng was the one who suppressed her. Could this girl, whose looks were similar to Celestial Empress and Yuan Mu, be Yuan Mu reincarnated? Mother Earth died but wasn't vanquished. The Heaven Alliance, the ancient Celestial Emperor, and Celestial Venerable Hao failed to kill her off entirely. The ancient Celestial Emperor was like Mother Earth in this regard. Thus, did Mistress Yuan Mu really die? Qin Mu smiled as he saw Yun Chuxiu walking towards him with that girl. He thought, this lady could very well be Mistress Yuan Mu, but Mistress Yuan Mu died in a very early era, during the latter parts of the Dragon Han era. Therefore, she can't still be a divine arts practitioner. Then, the smile on his face grew denser as he thought, could Mistress Yuan Mu be part of the Heaven Alliance? Could she be a Celestial Venerable? The 10 Celestial Venerables of the Celestial Heavens are becoming more and more interesting. Yun Chuxiu and that girl stopped in front of him, and Yun Chuxiu said with a smile, Celestial Venerable, I'll introduce a good sister to you. This is Lian Huahan, a disciple of Celestial Venerable Hao. She's very capable. Lian Huahan paid her respects, and Qin Mu smiled. Good sister, there's no need for such formalities, please rise. Every flower that blooms eventually withers, who will pity them when they do? Sister Huahan has a nice name and is beautiful too. He sincerely praised her. Yun Chuxiu gave a cold humph. Although Lian Huahan was beautiful, she paled in comparison to ladies whose bodies were created to be perfect like Zhu Wuchen. Although Yun Chuxiu's body was created according to the mold of Zhu Wuchen, unexpectedly, Qin Mu never praised her, instead, praising Lian Huahan. It was clear that Celestial Venerable Mu's taste in beauty was problematic. Lian Huahan rose, blinked her beautiful eyes, and said, Celestial Venerable, you are outstanding and multi-talented for your oratorical skills to be so good. Yun Chuxiu coldly smiled. My name has a famous origin too, does Celestial Venerable Mu know about it? Qin Mu probed her, the water under the moon will always be clear, the clouds that emerge out of the mountains will always be light. Yun Chuxiu shook her head and replied, no. Lian Huahan gently bowed and said with a smile, the clouds have no intention of coming out of the mountains. In the human world, one's reputation exposes everything about oneself. Sister Yun's name likely means this. This body has no heart and is thus unrestrained. In the human world, one's name creates one's world. Yun Chuxiu clapped and laughed. It seems like it's Sister Lian that understands me. One pities the weak stem of the flower, which doesn't change in cold seasons. That jealousy towards the snow has already been blown away by the cold wind. Lian Huahan isn't talking about people's pity, but about how the flowers can't coexist peacefully. The cold wind causes the flowers to wither early. Sister Lian Huahan is smart, unlike those dumb guys who look smart, but are dumb. As soon as she finished, she glanced at Qin Mu. Qin Mu remained silent with bitterness. These two girls were really close and hard to separate, calling each other sister in each sentence, how mushy. Qin Mu looked forward to a situation where the two of them had a falling out and fought each other. It would certainly be fiery and explosive. These two ladies are smiling so happily, It seems like the sisterly bond between both of them is deep. It will be extremely interesting when they fall out. The boat grew ever closer to the halo radiated by the great void and finally reached its edge. The god official driving the boat hollered, "Everyone, be careful. Please utilize neither thought nor no thought at every moment. Never stop utilizing it." Everyone on the boat utilized the Buddhist technique to keep their thoughts in the state of neither thought nor no thought. Qin Mu never learned this technique, so he strengthened his heart to keep the thoughts in his mind pure and singular. The boat flew into that halo, and gentle light shrouded the 300 people on the boat. Qin Mu immediately felt a faint wave of thoughts. These lights were thoughts that coalesced. However, strangely, these thoughts had no ideas or beliefs, just a simple thought, like a pure and blank consciousness of a person. How does one do this? He couldn't help but think. He had some understanding of the cultivation techniques of the prehistoric masters of creation, more so than most celestial venerables, and strong practitioners of the Emperor's throne in the celestial heavens. Of course, his understanding paled in comparison to masters of creation like Shu Jun. However, he already understood the cultivation principles of the prehistoric masters of creation. The principle was visualization, where one used visualization to strengthen oneself. However, to use visualization, one had to construct the things to be visualized in one's consciousness. For example, to visualize Heaven Duke, one's thoughts had to construct the form of Heaven Duke and use it to strengthen oneself. Yet, the great void coalesced those pure thoughts that didn't contain any ideas or beliefs into light, which was strange, for it exceeded his understanding. Perhaps the prehistoric masters of creation have cultivation techniques that I still don't understand. As soon as he thought about that, a prehistoric giant appeared in front of the boat. Its palm reached for the boat, grabbed it, flipped it, and sent the boat towards its mouth. Qin Mu was dumbfounded. The others on the boat saw this sight for the first time in their lives and panicked. Who is letting their imagination run wild? Luo Wushuang jumped into the air and pulled out the divine knife on his back. With that one knife, he sliced at the prehistoric master of creation. The light from the blade was breathtaking and powerful, and the blade chopped off the master of creation's hands. Luo Wushuang raised his blade again, and the knife light cut through the neck of that master of creation. Luo Wushuang put away his blade as his body landed on the front of the ship. He turned around and coldly said, "Continue utilizing neither thought nor no thought, don't stop. Otherwise, there will be more peculiarities coming our way." Also, who was the one with impure thoughts? As soon as he finished, clattering sounds appeared behind him. Luo Wushuang revealed his shock, as he forced himself to turn around. All he saw within the light of the great void was a box growing legs and sprinting towards the boat. On the box stood a youth carrying a long blade. That was Qin Mu when he was young, with his eyes that blazed as bright as the stars. Luo Wushuang's body and soul arm trembled. He forced himself to raise his arm and pull out the blade behind his back. That was the devil in his heart, the most feared person in his Tao heart. Luo Wushuang shouted, raised his blade, flew out of the boat, and moved to meet the youth on the box. That youth pulled out his sword, and his sword light met the knife light of Luo Wushuang. Luo Wushuang was undoubtedly the strongest divine knife of the celestial heavens. One knife had countless changes, truly marvelous. His divine knife had already reached 13 heavens of the path of the knife. Using the knife to enter the path and unleashing his knife technique, his knife path was already vast after showcasing it. Yet, the youth on the box was incredibly strong too, and he blocked his ever-changing knife technique with one blade before striking at the weak point of it. Very soon, Luo Wushuang was covered in dripping blood. On the boat, Qin Mu was stunned as he thought, I'm that powerful in Luo Wushuang's heart. In front of the boat, Two figures crisscrossed one another like electricity, creating light out of nothing at all. Their techniques clashed and gave off dazzling lights. Luo Wushuang's vast blade path grew stronger, and his divine knife stretched across the sky. Yet, that youthful Qin Mu could always find the flaw in his knife technique. As soon as the sword lit up, Luo Wushuang's body received another injury. Qin Mu was a being like this in Luo Wushuang's Dao heart. During that night in the latter years of the High Emperor era, within the darkness, Qin Mu stood on top of a box, and cut off his arm with one swing of his sword. Qin Mu's shadow was etched into his Dao heart as a result. He took the next 40,000 years to cultivate into a knife god not found elsewhere in the celestial heavens, one who could take on the god execution mysterious knife on the god execution stage. Nevertheless, he never escaped Qin Mu's shadow. His knife path grew stronger with his power, but so did the Qin Mu in his heart. Upon reaching the great void, the devil walked out of his Dao heart, and became a reality. Yun Chuxiu excitedly said, "Divine Knife Luo, you can only defeat the devil in your heart, by killing the real celestial Venerable Mu." Part 384 end here. Thank you for watching.